Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Monday review time. And unfortunately, we're back to somewhat negativity. It's a week since me and Rhys spoke on the back of that 1-1 draw at home to Barrow, which wasn't the best performance, but at least Gills did dig in and find a way to get a point when not playing too well. Since then, unfortunately, though, Rhys, it's 2 goalless performances and it's 2 defeats. And the pressure, certainly on social media, seems to be back on the gaffer Neil Harris, as we sunk to within a point or two of the relegation zone in Sky Bet League 2. If we do both look a little bleary-eyed, we are recording this early Sunday morning. Both have been thrown off by the clocks going back. So we're doing an early recording so that we both have the rest of our day to enjoy, because we don't have to think about Gillingham Football Club. Rhys, we'll go all the way back, and this is on you today because I have not watched the game back in full. I've watched the extended highlights. Quite frankly, that was enough for me. I'm not going to lie. So you will be the star of the show today. I've got some questions to put to you. 2 o'clock, team news came in. Again, we'll do it as we always do, as much as we can. There were 3 changes from Tuesday night. Will Wright, Dom Jeffries and Hakeem Adelakun were all withdrawn from the starting 11. In came Ryan Law for balance as a left back, Alex McDonald back into a wide area, and Scott Cashkett back up front. I wasn't surprised there were changes made, but the big one for me was Will Wright. I couldn't believe he'd been taken out, considering his record in recent weeks. Not only has he played well, he scored a goal against Brighton in the EFL Trophy, and he's our best source of creating chances at the moment, because 1 goal from open play in the league is woeful. You can't dress that up any other way, but he's provided 3 assists from set pieces in the last few games.
Well, this was the thing. When I first saw that team sheet, I thought, okay, I can understand 2 of those changes, fine. It might be tight legs or whatever, but I thought, we've only scored 1 goal in open play from 16 games, let's be honest here. And I thought the rest of the goals have come from set plays. Who's our best set play taker? We've got Will Wright. And I thought, we're going away Doncaster. We need to score some goals. They're not great either. When they're out of form, and we need to put some pressure on them. And taking off your best set piece taker, or replace them, and that was a real concern for me. I thought, I have no idea where these goals are going to come from. If you play the percentages, having your best set piece taker not on the pitch when the majority of your goals, bar 1, have come from set plays, then it was a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Literally from 2 o'clock when I saw the team sheet, I thought I genuinely couldn't see where the goals are coming from when the team was set up, which is really sad for me to say. But that's kind of how I felt when I saw that team sheet. And because literally the statistics speak for themselves when we say we've got 1 goal from open play and that's it. So,
well, yeah, and I genuinely can't remember what that is.
McDonald against Sutton.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only one. Yeah.
I suppose if you're clutching at straws, you can say Mandron at Grimsby, because it wasn't directly from the corner, because it hit another player before coming back in. But yeah, we really are clutching at straws, Gills fans. So that team in 4 was Glenn Morris in goal. The back 4 was Shay Alexander, Maxima Elkin Baggett and Ryan Law. The midfield 4 was Jordan Green, Robbie McKenzie, the captain Stuart O'Keefe and Alex McDonald, and it was a front 2 of Lewis Walker and Scott Cashkett. I've written down the stats for the first half, and I've put it was 70% for Doncaster, 30 for the Gills. In terms of shots, they had 7, we had 2, but it was 1 shot on target each. Like I said, I've not watched it back in full. What did you make of the first half? Was it fairly even, aside from them having more of the ball? Most teams have more ball than Gillingham. I get that. That's not a huge factor for me generally. But was it an even first half, or were they on top?
A good comparison is we look at Tuesday night, we look at Leyton Orient, and I'm sure because you watched the Leyton Orient game because it was an eye follower, is that right? So if we look at the first half of Leyton Orient, we actually put up a pretty solid fight in keeping them at bay and actually looking pretty tidy and structured in defence and in the midfield. We could create something, but we were solid. And then I look at that now yesterday from Doncaster, and I'm like, Doncaster are a significantly weaker team than Leyton Orient, and we the commentators kept saying we're being competitive and we're matching them physically, and I'm thinking, no, we're not. We're not really actually doing that. And I was a bit disappointed with some of the commentary yesterday saying how we were competing really well with Doncaster, because I actually thought that we looked second best most of the time. And actually, yeah, we had one shot on target, but Doncaster, for me, looked like the team that were going to go on and get the goal. I mean, the first half was pretty dull, to be honest. There was not much to note. It was actually quite hard to scrape some highlights together for the first half. But we held pretty solid-ish, I think. Do you know what, right? And this will lead on some of the players that I thought did okay, but I thought defensively we were okay. And we did look like we were trying to utilize some of the wing play. We've got Green on a bit of pace. We did use that right-hand side quite a lot in the first half to try and move forward.
That's where our best chance came from, wasn't it? The McDonald header came from, I think it was Green and Alexander linking up.
Yeah, it was. So Green and Alexander link up quite well. Actually, those two linking up, I think they could have better days together, but they could have a lot worse days together as well. But it was relatively, if there was any impressiveness from this game, that was okay down the right-hand side. But again, it was Joe is a real nothing half. It's really hard to actually put any sort of like anything together, but it was just two teams out of form trying to, flog each other. And it was poor watching, but Doncaster did look like the team that had a little bit of gumph about them and a little bit of, finesse and trying to get the ball and create something, because Gillingham were just absorbing that most of the half. And that's all I could say really for that first half.
Yeah, because all it showed on iFollow on the highlights that I watched was it showed there was like a corner that came into the back stick from them that got headed back into the danger zone. I think a mixture of Maxima and Stuart O'Keefe hacked it clear. And the only other chance they showed was the Maxwell one where he got put through and he blazed it over the bar on an angle. And then for Gills, it was the McDonald header. And then I think it was Stuart O'Keefe played in Ryan Law and he drilled one wide from the edge of the box. That was essentially the highlights.
I mean, it's crazy that's the highlights. I mean, I think I probably put those four in because that was literally it. The rest of it was just played in the middle of the park, people losing possession, not stringing for 3 or 4 passes together from both sides, actually. But what I did notice, what Doncaster were doing in the first half is they were trying to play from the back. And Gillingham, in fairness, were pressing quite high. That's probably why the possession statistics are quite high for Doncaster. They did that style of play, which I really despise, actually. And it's playing from the goalkeeper short and trying to build up the play right from the back, like Man City always do.
That leads me on to my next question, because I was looking at the statistics and you've almost answered it for me then, because they completed more passes than we attempted first half. They completed 201 out of 259 and we completed 66 out of 112 according to the app that I use. But like you say, I think it was levelled at MK Dons a couple of seasons ago when they came to our place and scored that goal that was 55 passes but lost 3-2.
Yeah, exactly.
If you do it on the edge of your own box, it doesn't hurt sides. But all in all then, just a fairly nondescript first period that we were staying in the game again. But that sums up our season.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to say Doncaster did look pretty shaky playing from the back. And in fairness to Gillingham, we did the right approach. We were pressing high. We were trying to get the ball off them. And there was a couple of mistakes that they made at the back. And I think Kashkit nearly got in against I think the goalkeeper, Mitchell, Doncaster. Nearly got in, but tried to win a penalty. But the keeper managed to get there first. But there was a couple of little things where Doncaster was a bit shaky at the back and Gillingham were pressing high. But as a result of that, it meant that Gills were coming a lot, pressing so high that when the ball did go through, it was just the midfielders and strikers of Doncaster versus 4 defenders of the Gills, and that's where their chances came from, was literally from playing from the back and then playing it over the top or playing it through, and that's where 2 of their biggest chances came from. So that they were looking a little bit threatening. It almost was like a pseudo counter attack. It was what it felt like, but it was just playing from the back and eventually getting a couple through. But that is where their attacks were coming from in the first half, Doncaster.
And then second half, right, I'll do the statistics again. 50% each, according to the app that I use. So more even in terms of having the ball. 7 shots to 3, and we had 2 on target. They had 4. But unfortunately, it's copy and paste from Tuesday night. We didn't start the second half properly. They showed the chance for Harrison Biggins before he scored that hit the bar, the free kick. I think Glenn Morris probably had it covered if it was underneath the crossbar.
I'd have been disappointed if it was on target and he didn't save that. But I thought it was a pretty good pelt with the ball. It was he was miles out, to be fair to him. So it was a decent hit, all the same. But yeah, I think that'd probably sum it up for me as well. If Morris had been beat, you'd have been asking questions. Absolutely.
But we didn't learn. No. I've written down half chance for Gills. They showed, which was the little set piece, little diagonal from the left hand side. Baggett sort of headed it back to the edge of the 6-yard box on the angle, and the way Gills' Twitter for me sort of put it out was like it was a really, really big chance. But having seen the highlight, Amar sort of flicks it towards the back post. Again, for me, if I was a Doncaster fan and Jonathan Mitchell doesn't save that, I'd be asking questions.
Yeah, and it was. Was that the? Was that the biggest chance? It probably was. Actually, there was one other chance that just sprung to mind as well. But the first, that one, yeah, that's the key. Mitchell should be saving that, and it was an okay set piece. But I think I don't know what the Gills Twitter said actually, but it sounds like they were really trying to clutch at straws again to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, because I was
Almost.
expecting to watch the highlights and see like Mitchell flying at full strength to like full stretch, sorry, to like flick one round the post, but it was sort of a looped one that was sums us up, doesn't it? Unfortunately,
Yeah,
powder puff.
absolutely.
There's no conviction in anything we do in attacking areas at the moment. It seems.
And it seems to be the case. And and the other, I think I don't know if this was after the goal, before Doncaster's goal, but Mackenzie had a shot as well from about 25 yards. That was easily saved by the goalkeeper. You need to be going for the top corner, but then I just thought, apart from that, there was really nothing else, and we just looked absolutely lost for the whole game as a result. But yeah, they would probably our two flurry forwards that were noteworthy of anything.
That was literally the two that the extended highlight showed again, and it was essentially a back pass from Mackenzie, wasn't it? You can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to whip it outside the post and get it to come back in, but it ends up straight down the keeper's throat. And again, you'd be fuming as a Doncaster fan if that slips through. Unfortunately, after that half chance, I'm going to call it for Maximo, same as Tuesday. We switch off and concede a really soft goal, in my opinion. I've watched it back a couple of times. I've slowed it down. I've zoomed in. There's no danger for me when Doncaster had that on the halfway line. They say Harrison Biggin's in possession. You can see that. And he plays it out wide to the right back, Noyle. And then I've watched Stuart O'Keefe, who's level with Biggins in the centre circle. You then see Biggins accelerate to bust a gut to get into our 18-yard box. Does Stuart O'Keefe do the same? Not for me.
Not for me, no.
And by the time he arrives on the edge of the box, Biggins, he's 3 or 4 yards in front of O'Keefe, and there's a free header.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I just got to say, the header itself is not that strong, really. It must have nestled right in the corner. It must have wrong-footed Morris, because it's again, I'm looking at Morris, I'm thinking, that didn't really go on the right-hand corner of the net. It was just. I actually thought he could have done a little bit better of his position in there. I just thought, actually, as a calamity, I thought the whole thing was a disaster. But I do have to say, actually, Neuer was ball into the box. It was pretty good, actually. It had some some direction, and it is a cross. And Gills had dealt with a couple of crosses already from Doncaster from Neuer, and I think Williams should put a few in as well. But I just thought that goal in particular, it was just so fragmented in the box. It just was threadbare. And I thought, as soon as it went in and I saw Biggins go out for it, I went, that's going to go in. And it's just, and no one's challenging it. And the fact that O'Keefe lost him, it was such a frustrating thing to watch that I lost. It was a real, it epitomizes Gillingham's kind of breathy performance of the whole game, actually, the goal we conceded.
Yeah, because you can look at Ryan Law. Can he go out and stop the cross? But for me, if Stuart O'Keefe just tracks his man from the halfway line into the 18-yard box, then they probably don't score the goal. And it is getting a bit tedious. Neil Harris comes out and says we're on the wrong side of these fine lines and we've got to score more goals and we've got to get better. We know that, and we need to start doing it because
water's wet and all that.
We're in a relegation battle. Let's not pretend anymore.
Absolutely.
And I've tried to be glass half full and positive, but other teams around us picked up points again yesterday. I think Hartlepool won. Crawley picked up another decent point. They've picked up after changing the manager. Rochdale have improved after changing.
Harrogate do some work yesterday as well. Maybe I'm wrong there. I think
Harrogate might have done as well. We can just have a quick look.
I've got a feeling they might have done some work as well. And
so it's teams around us that we suddenly have to start being wary of. Harrogate, no, they lost 3-2 at Wimbledon.
Okay.
But yeah, Crawley drew at Bradford. Colchester picked up a decent point at home to Stevenage. Hartlepool beat Grimsby. Stockport won again. Rochdale lost yesterday, but they've picked up to Jim Bentley, and obviously we'll get on to the manager and his situation later on in the video. I think the thing for me, Rhys, and I don't know what you think, and I tweeted it Saturday afternoon, and it really frustrated me. Gills tweeted, 5 minutes added on. Now, if you're in the ground, the crowd goes up, and you think, right, let's lay siege. Let's go and have a real go, even if we've been poor. The next tweet was full time. Literally nothing in between. No attempts, no half chance, no, Gills have got into a dangerous area. Gills have won a set play. Just fizzled out. Like, dare I say, our football club is in danger of doing at the moment.
I think so. And it's funny you say it, because actually when the ball went up for 5 minutes, Gillingham had quite a lot of possession actually, and I think after Doncaster scored, there was a couple more chances for Doncaster. Sort of last 10, 15 minutes again, Gills had most possession, which is why it's probably 50-50% in terms of possession. But what's really worrying is we have all that possession in sort of the last 5 minutes of when the ball goes up, and literally nothing happened. I can't. Did we even win a corner? No, didn't win a corner. Nothing really happened. There was some long balls from right going into the box, but then it was just chucking it into the mixer. There was no method at all to any of it. And yeah, I told my mate that what you tweeted about the 5 minutes during time and full time, and my mate said, "Yeah, that really summarizes what your club's about at the moment. Like, but there seems to be no passion. Everyone's kind of dead, and no one's really doing anything with anything. It doesn't surprise me that 5 minutes goes up and the next tweet is full time. Of course, of course, it's going to happen.
sad state of affairs, unfortunately. And we have, we were on this unbeaten run prior to Leyton Orient, but we did only win one game in that spell in the league. We have to forget that as well. Not forget that, unfortunately. Right, over to you. Doncaster's best player on the day, I've called it Donny Delight, which is
Donny Delight. Sounds like an ice cream.
Our season.
So for me, best player, I think. I mean, obviously, you could easily go with the goal scorer Biggins. It's a decent header. But actually, for me, the one that was making things happen, and Doncaster kept attacking down the right-hand side the whole game. That's where they were really trying to utilise their players. And I think that for me, it's Carl Noyle. For me, was their best player on the day. He was extraordinary for me. He just looked solid. He was always part of the attack, always part of movement down the right-hand side, and always had an eye for getting the ball into the box, and ultimately got the assist as well. But for me, he was the one creating all the problems down that right-hand side, and that's what Doncaster were using to get to basically attack Gillingham. And eventually it paid off because he did get the assist to Biggins and put it in the back of the net. But for me, Noyle got the man of the match for Doncaster, and was their better player in my opinion.
Yeah, just to look at his stats to back that up, I think Rhys is a very good choice. 90 minutes played, obviously set up the winner. 79 touches, 74% pass completion. Look at his heat map. He's in our half quite a lot, which says that, that's what you want from a modern day fullback.
Just in the heat map. Yeah, Jesus.
3 key passes, 80% long ball accuracy, 150% of his duels, both on the floor and in the air. So he did his defensive duties as well. So yeah, a really good performance. And Carl Noyle was Rhys's best Doncaster player on the day. We have to go back to Gills now, unfortunately. Gills, man of the match for you over the 90 minutes, please, Rhys.
Over the 90 minutes, there was only one person I think it was doing their duties the best of their ability. And again, it's going to fall to Elkan Baggott. I thought he was pretty solid, actually, most of the game. And even for the goal, I don't think he could have done too much about where he was positioned. But majority of the game, Elkan Baggott again was the most solid player. He looked like he was just doing the right thing most of the time. And for me, the ball comes over the top. I like his no-nonsense approach to the game. Gets the ball, clears it, but then occasionally he'll get the ball down and try to create an attack from the back. He's the only one with a bit of spark in that team. And also, you need to remember, he's our joint top goal scorer as well.
He's our outright top scorer in the league.
Is he outright? Oh my goodness.
In the league, I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, because Mandron's got another one in the cup, hasn't he? Of course. So he's our, well, there you go. But defensively, I thought he was pretty sound. And again, for me, Baggott was man of the match. I think by a long way as well. I mean, the only other one that was contender for me, I thought Alexander had a hot, cold game. I thought he showed some potential and was trying to make things happen, but I thought we got caught short on the right-hand side every now and again. But for me, Baggott is my man of the match. 90
minutes for Elkan, 7 clearances, 2 block shots, 1 interception. In terms of his touches, 62, 31 accurate passes at 68%. 1 key pass, I assume, is the header back into the danger area for Emar's half chance. 50% accurate with his long balls as well, and 100% aerial duel success rate. He won 6 out of 6. So yeah, fairly solid performance again from Elkan Baggott. But that isn't where the issue lies with us, is it? It's at the other end of the pitch, and we will get onto that in a little bit. But before we have a look at that, and Neil Harris in particular, Gills player ratings, if you just want to go through them, we don't have to dwell on this too much because I'm imagining they're not going to be too many that are higher than 6.
No, I can go through. I do it from the goalkeeper, Glenn Morris. I don't know, 6.5. I mean, Alexander 6.5, Maxima 6.5. Baggett was a 7 for me. Ryan Law 6.5 again. If we go through midfield, Jordan Green unfortunately was just a 6. Didn't really offer much for me that game. Stuart O'Keefe, sorry, 6. Maybe that's a bit generous, actually. Maybe 5.5 is Stuart O'Keefe. I don't think he created too much. I'm stuck between that one.
Okay.
Robin McKenzie, I mean, 5.5, 6, somewhere around there. And Alex McDonald, 6 to 6.5, had a little bit of fight about him, but yeah, didn't really set the world alight. And for all their hard work, Walker, again, it looks like he's trying to give 100% effort, but it's just nothing really going his way, and he's not creating anything really. But yeah, Walker, what, 5? And Cash Kit again, 5. Like this,
I just want to touch on Walker there. Sorry to interject, because
yeah,
obviously I'm only going off of a 10-minute portion of the game. You've seen all of it, but they did show flashes of Walker, and I thought there was bits of hold-up play that were promising. Again, there was one particularly second half where he brought it into his chest, got fouled, got up, held the player off, won a free kick. I think was for the McDonald ball in that we had the half chance from. There was another one. I think he ran the channel well and then got the ball off to McKenzie. Do we think now that he's probably in front of Mika Mandron in terms of starting league games consistently over the next half a dozen potentially?
I think so. I think maybe firstly that 5 might be a bit harsh, but the reason I've given him a 5 is because actually up top, like he's got 100% effort, but I don't think it's worth it. The chemistry between him and Kashket isn't that strong at the moment. That's probably why I've given it that low. They're feeding off each other. But your point you're making with the swap of attack and force, it is possible that we could see Lewis Walker starting ahead of Mandron, because Mandron came on, I think, the last sort of 10, 15 minutes of the game. And when he came on, it was some...
He was on for 25 minutes.
25, but there you go. I didn't really notice him too much.
That's all you need to know, unfortunately.
There you go. So, but yeah, that's why I think Lewis Walker is taken now president over Mandron. And yeah, I think once he gets into a groove, he might be some threat. But again, physically, he's not that strong. But do you need to be all the time for a striker? Actually, I do think you need to be in League Two. But I think just based on the fact that he's looking a bit more threatening than Mandron has been doing the last sort of month is why he's in that place there.
And goal strikers are judged on goals ultimately, and ours don't score them. So that's understandable why you're dropping the ratings. In terms of the substitutes, I'm just looking at who came on when. Jeffrey's right and Lee didn't come on until past the 75-minute marks. We don't have to mark them. So the only other two you need to rate were Delacune and Mika.
Yeah, so Mika for me was a bit of a nothing performance. So he comes on at 6, so I think he leaves at a 6. So there was no impact. Hakeem Delacune came on, did shuffle it up a little bit, but so he gets a 6.25 for me. He did shuffle it up. He did try and create things, but again, there was no real impact for me. Delacune does show flashes of brilliance. I think he put one good ball into the box that was but no one was on the end of it. Or he took a shot actually that was near post to keep.
I think it was his ball over the top for Walker, the one that led to the McKenzie chance. In fairness to Hakeem,
yeah.
But again, it's no goals, no assists this
season. But this is the thing I want to say, Matt. In terms of the team ratings, we can look at individual performances, but also the other thing that really is concerning to me is that I think at the moment we talk about teams generating cohesion and chemistry. You know what? I really do think we've got a majority of our team, a lot of them are individuals, but they're poor individuals. So, your rating will improve based on how your counterpart is playing in your team as well.
Sure.
And they're just not feeding off one another. And that's the thing for me. And that's why, if you put Scott Kashket in a stronger team or he gets the deliveries or the service that suits his game, his rating will go up. But as a result, that's not happening. So his rating stays low. So I just think at the moment we may have a team full of poor individuals that are just not performing. And I still don't think there's any real cohesion. No one really knows exactly how everyone's playing. That's how it looks like to me. It just looks methodless without direction. Sorry.
That brings me on nicely and seamlessly to the next part, because we do need to talk about it before we finish up. There's a lot of talk on social media since Tuesday night about Neil Harris. I did put a vote up Saturday evening. And I think at current stage, there was 4 options. Yes, he's still the right man for the job. Do we wait for this potential takeover? We'll have a chat about that as well. The other option was genuinely not sure, or no, he goes now. I think at the time of recording, 27% said yes, absolutely, he's still the right man. 24% were saying wait for this potential takeover and see what he could do with hopefully a bit of a bigger budget. But we don't know how long that's going to take, and I totally understand that. 32% were not sure, and 17% said no, he has to go now. I've done a little bit of research before we started recording. 34 league games he's now been in charge of since arriving. We've won 7. We've drawn 13 and we've lost 14. So that works out to 34 points. So that's 1 point per game. So if that was League One, that gets you relegated with 4 teams going down. It might just keep you up in this division because only 2 teams go down. But essentially, it's not good enough, regardless of what we think of Paul Scally, the ownership, the budget, and all that. These are Neil Harris's players now. We've scored 18 times in them 34 games, which is just over half a goal a game. Defensively, and this is the thing, and we've had this chat before, Rhys. Defensively, we've been all right under Neil. We've only conceded 35 times. It's a goal a game, which is by no means a poor record at this level. But when you've blanked 19 times in 34 fixtures, we're putting so much pressure on our fullbacks, our centre backs, our goalkeeper to keep clean sheets because we know they're not scoring at the other end. Is that having an effect, do you think, in terms of decision making at key times? Because they feel right, we're under so much pressure that if we don't keep a clean sheet, we're probably going to lose the football match.
It's funny you say that. So it reminds me when I used to play Sunday League back for Bredhurst Rovers in the Medway leagues. And there always used to be this kind of divide between defence and attack when it was fragmented. It would always be, we'd always try and keep the team in it, but you're not scoring the goals. And it always kind of felt like you're warring against the other half of your team. And I'm not saying that's happened in Gillingham, but if I'm a defensive back line here and my duty is to try and keep a clean sheet because I know we're probably not going to score any goals, I would feel not only immensely under pressure to do that, but also kind of infuriating for your fellow teammate to be not pulling, as it were, pulling his weight to try and balance that out. So I doubt that there's actually a divide between the defence and attack in the Gillingham squad, but it definitely could, I've seen it happen at Sunday League level, but it puts a strain on the defence. And, if you look at the statistics, if we are scoring as many as we're conceding throughout the time Harris has been here, we might be talking about just a typical mid-table team pushing for a playoff at some point. But that is where because defensively, I really have no problem. It is just up front. And I think, we all know that. But it's defensively, we're doing our job. Up top, it's the worst attacking team I've ever seen Gillingham put out, ever.
Can't disagree. Like we said, we've played 16, we've scored 6. We're on for 7.5, 8 league goals. No, 17.5, 18 league goals this season, which is awful.
And some teams have already surpassed that significantly in the division.
Some players are close.
Some players
have scored. I would dread to think how many individuals have scored more league goals than Gillingham if you look through all 4 divisions. Back to Harris more specifically. I've written down doesn't know his best 11 ? There's a lot of chopping and changing. I was surprised that he changed the front 3 from Tuesday night because I thought first half they were really good at pressing Orient and putting them under pressure.
I agree with that.
At the same time, you can understand it because they didn't score any goals again. So it must be hard for Neil. He's almost probably trying to stumble across a magic formula. But for you, is he under pressure now? He has to start taking some accountability, surely.
So it's funny. So I think he's under pressure. I think he was under pressure before this Doncaster match. I think he's been under pressure for the last week or so. It doesn't look good on your CV if your team only scored 6 goals in 16 games. So he is under pressure. I agree with you. I think he doesn't know his best 11. And the chopping and changing, you could cover that with a little bit, we're trying to match up against our opposition each week. But actually, I kind of feel like he doesn't know his best 11 really. And the chopping and changing does damage the chemistry the team might be trying to create with one another. They don't know if they're going to be picked or not, or what position they're going to be playing in the next game. And as a professional, that must be quite stressful, not knowing where you're going to play, what you're going to do, and with the amount of stress that's on the team at the moment and pressure to do well. I think Harris has a lot of control over that. You stick with your guns and let a team develop. or and don't change it so much. For those who probably play Football Manager on the computer, if you change your formation all the time, actually your form does dip if you're constantly changing it all the time. But if you stick with something and try and work with it over time, it might come to something. But at the moment, I agree with you. I don't think he knows his best 11, which is unfortunate. Really
it
unfortunate.
is when we're 2 days away from November, or a day away from November.
Yeah.
Concerning times, Gills fans. I'm going to have to ask you, if you have voted, what did you click?
I did vote, actually. I genuinely don't know. So
I think that's
not
the
helpful.
biggest concern, isn't it? Is that a lot of fans are almost not sure where we go from here. And I know some commented and said, the potential takeover that's by no means, definite. And I understand that entirely.
Yeah, of course.
But the saddest thing is that's our best option.
That is our best option.
Waiting on something that might not happen, I think, because number one, Paul Scally can't afford to run the football club on his own. He's come out and said that. Number two, we can't change our playing squad for another 2 months, by which time we could be bottom of the league if current form continues. So, number three, can we afford to sack Neil Harris if it ever got to that point? I don't think we can. So that only leaves waiting, hopefully, for someone to ride in on a white steed and save us.
My goodness me, that's when you put it like that, I never thought of it in that way. That's pretty grim thinking, actually. Yeah, it's to be waiting on something that is out of your control that might not happen, and let's entertain the idea it doesn't happen. Then what? Like I think if it doesn't happen, I think we are anyway. But if it doesn't happen, don't be surprised if we're one of the Scunthorpes or Oldham this season, which is really dreadful to think about. But don't be surprised if that can happen. That could easily happen.
Just feels like deja vu, doesn't it? I sat there for months last season and said with Steve Evans in charge, we never get relegated out of League One. And I've said we won't get relegated out of League Two with Neil Harris. But it's a point. I've just looked at the league table. It's 1 point to the bottom two. We're on 13, Hartlepool 23rd on 12, Colchester. Invariably, if we lose our next league game, we could be bottom. I'm not sure of all the ramifications and all the fixtures, but we do have the joy of an FA Cup fixture. Before then, and a League Cup game, which hopefully might be a welcome distraction and could breed some confidence if we can somehow score a goal and win the FA Cup game. And I'm not saying we're going to beat Brentford, and not by any stretch, but at least if we could go there and put in a decent performance, it might increase the confidence again. But it's not a great time to be a Gills fan. We are waiting on. There's obviously been nothing from the club, and I totally understand that about a potential takeover. There seems to be, in my opinion, a lot of talk for it not to be a possibility. But again, it's like a signing, isn't it? Until the fellas stood there with a scarf and it's all signed, sealed, and delivered, and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, we're essentially just sitting and waiting and keeping our fingers crossed. So that's all we can do at the moment.
I refuse to get excited about it, and I'll see it I'll believe it when I see it. That's pretty much my stance on it. And if it comes through, then maybe we might have a chance to save ourselves in this club. But if it doesn't come through, then do we wait for another one? I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, I just look at some of the teams that have fallen from grace from League One, even Championship, all the way down, and go, well, it could easily be us. And now this season, that's a genuine possibility, which is terrifying to think about. But it is,
yeah, and it's sad and it's heartbreaking a little bit, but that's where we're at. We can't change it, unfortunately. As always, Rhys, thank you for coming on and joining me. I would say it's been a pleasure, but you know what I mean. It's not nice talking about poor performances and defeats and not even scoring goals or looking like scoring goals. But that's where we're at as a football club. If you've not voted yet on Twitter, go and put your views across. Reply, let us know what we're doing. I'm trying to retweet as many as I can so that everyone can see different views and perspectives. Just a note. This will be the last video on the channel for a couple of weeks because I am taking a well-earned rest. I have a week off work the week after this one. So I'm not travelling up to Fylde for the FA Cup game. It's my daughter's birthday, so I'm taking her out for the day. I'm in Edinburgh for the Brentford game. If the train strike allows me, that would just be my luck that my holiday gets cancelled and I don't have a ticket for Brentford away. So I shall be back now Saturday 12th of November for a match day live at home to Northampton. So you can give your ears a rest. Rhys can have a rest. And fingers crossed, by the time I come back in 2 weeks or just under, we might have scored a goal. We might be in the second round of the FA Cup. We probably would have lost to Brentford. We might have new owners. we might not have new owners. Who knows? Football
Who
changes
knows?
very quickly. But as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me and Rhys. Please do keep liking and subscribing. Keep going doing the same to Rhys's channel as well. I've not
Thank you
watched
very
your
much.
video yet, Rhys, purely because the fact that you put the wrong thumbnail on Twitter.
Oh, whoops-a-daisy.
I think
My
it's got the
mistake.
picture of the Leighton Orient game again.
Oh,
So I kept
God.
scrolling through your timeline and couldn't find it. But I
I'll
did
go
find
change
it on
that
YouTube,
now.
and we'll watch it. But yeah, a couple of weeks without me, so you can go and rest your ears. Like I say, please do keep liking and subscribing, and do the same for Rhys's channel. Until next time, up the Gills.
Up the Gills.